This video is brought to you in collaboration with WoWhead.com. Hello everyone. Last BlizzCon, they told us that...
I mean, right now we're focusing on life and death, but light and void are definitely one of those concepts that's out there to be explored in the future.
Yeah, the Shadowlands is, again, the first step in our big exploring the cosmology much more of the Warcraft universe, and light and void are definitely something on the horizon someday.
In the past, and I'm talking about a time before the Warcraft Chronicles. The story of Warcraft, it had quite a lot of mystery. Things like the Titans or the Old Gods were mentioned in rumors and shadows. But it was pretty clear that if you took any story in the Warcraft universe and you started to trace it back to its origin, you would end up at one of three different sections, three different pillars holding up the story. Those being either the Titans, the Old Gods, or the Burning Legion. For example, the origin story of the Horde and the invasion of Azeroth. That was done while under the influence of demonic blood, which was offered by the Pit Lord Manoroth. Manoroth killed Jaden and the Legion. They turned the Orcs because they wanted to use them to get rid of the Draenei. The Draenei on the run because Sargeras had converted some of their people to join the Burning Legion. Or the madness of Fandral Stackhelm, fallen to the effects of the Emerald Nightmare that used the image of his son to manipulate him. Manipulated, which caused quite a bit of problems, like a corrupted Teldrassil, Malfurion stuck in a coma. The son that they used was one that he lost during the War of the Shifting Sands, a battle against the old god Cthulhu. And of course, the Titans are responsible for bringing order to Azeroth, the staging ground for many of our adventures. Sometimes the pillars would even somewhat overlap with each other, like the madness of Deathwing, an aspect empowered by the Titans. His connection to Azeroth made him a prime target for the corruption of the old gods. Three pillars of the lore, and as time passed on, we have dealt with the front and stage characters connected to these pillars, even going all the way to the source. Cthulhu, Yogg-Saron, Y'Shaarj, and N'Zoth. They've apparently been cleansed from the world, sent to whatever realm the old gods go when they die. Their pillar has been knocked down. Then the Burning Legion, it has attempted to take over Azeroth several times. We faced Archimonde in Warcraft 3, replayed in the Caverns of Time, and then Warlords of Draenor, killed Jaden at the Sunwell and in Legion, until even their leader, the creator of the Burning Legion himself, he was confronted and imprisoned with the aid of the Titans. The second pillar that has fallen. Don't get me wrong, there are still demons out there, just no Burning Legion as far as we're aware. There is still Void and Shadow, but we cleansed the corruption from Azeroth. Even the final pillar, the Titans themselves, they've seen what the world of Azeroth and beyond has produced. Champions, capable to stand with them, and now they're out there somewhere, at the seat of the Pantheon, potentially trying to talk some sense into their fallen brother. But the point is that these sources of lore, they've been tapped into, sometimes multiple times, and now they're working towards bringing new elements into the story, with the aid of the Cosmology charts. Revealed in the Warcraft Chronicles Volume 1. It says that Azeroth is but one small world in a vast universe, a realm filled with potent magics and mighty beings. Since the dawn of time, these forces have influenced Azeroth and the surrounding cosmos, setting the stars in motion and shaping the destiny of countless worlds and mortal civilizations. In the middle of all of that, there is reality, the physical universe, represented with the world of Azeroth. But of course, there are more worlds out there, Draenor or Outlands, prime example. Now space in Warcraft, that is called the Great Dark Beyond. Pretty much all the unexplored planets and whatnot, that is what is known as the Great Dark Beyond. Past the borders of reality, there we find the Emerald Dream and the Shadowlands. The Emerald Dream is heavily connected to life and nature, where Shadowlands, well, we are going to be exploring this place a whole lot more in the upcoming expansion. It is the realm of afterlife, and while it's designed like these two stand opposite of one another, we now know that at least part of the Shadowlands has a connection to the Emerald Dream. And these are not the only realms that exist outside of reality. Take Ny'alotha, for example, very prominent in Battle for Azeroth. There we saw the old god N'Zoth trying to break down the barrier between the old god's domain and ours, and I'm sure that more will be added in the future. Moving another circle, we see the representation of the elements. fire, air, earth, water, spirit, and decay. And then beyond that, there come in the big boys, the big forces at play. In the beginning, there was light and there was void. The tensions between these two opposing yet inseparable energies, it ignited a series of catastrophic explosions. In that moment, the physical universe was born, the cataclysmic birth of the cosmos. It also flung shards of light throughout reality. These shards suffused the matter of myriad worlds with the spark of life, giving rise to creatures of wondrous and terrible diversity. Occasionally, we'd see clouds of fractured light gather and give shape to beings of far greater power, of far greater potential. Among these were the Naru, benevolent creatures composed of scintillating holy energies. When they gazed out across the immeasurable universe, they saw a realm of limitless possibilities. The Naru vowed to use their mastery over holy magic to spread hope and nurture life wherever they could find it.
The light is your destiny.
Light and shadow, they're the most fundamental forces in existence. Although contradictory by their very nature, they are bound together on a cosmic scale. So, moving over to that void side, here is a prime example of them expanding upon the story known and diving deeper with this chart. In the past, one of the pillars were the old gods, but with Chronicles, we have a source behind the big bad, namely the Void Lords, monstrous entities composed of pure shadow energy. These beings are cruel and merciless beyond mortal comprehension, driven by an insatiable hunger. The Void Lords seek to devour all matter and energy within the physical universe. These are the beings responsible for shooting out the old gods across the great dark beyond, landing and infecting random planets with their dark energies. This was done with the hope of landing on one that contained a slumbering titan spirit, so that spirit could be corrupted, turn to their side, and aid them in accomplishing their ultimate goal. Light and void. One cannot exist without the other. Pure light and shadow, they dwell in a realm outside the borders of reality. When it comes to the void, as it stands right now, we had the old gods that have been dealt with. But their source, the Void Lords, and their domain is still very much waiting to be explored in the future. If and when we ever go into the great dark beyond and explore more of these planets, we might find some of them still infected or perhaps even conquered by the old gods. Closer to home, there is still the storyline of Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire. The blade itself, it was used to carve a pathway to N'Zoth, but the entity released from the blade, she's still out there somewhere, doing whatever it is that she wants to do. And the one handing over the blade, that was Azshara, Queen of the Naga. Last time that we saw her, she mentioned something about claiming a throne of power.
I tire of intermediaries and heralds. The true throne of power beckons, and I intend to claim it.
Which might relate to Sylvanas going for the frozen throne, or a story that they want to put on ice for a little bit, to be used at a later time. And then for the light, we know of the Naru that are in the physical universe. But as the Chronicle describes, pure light, it dwells in a realm outside of reality. If the void has the Void Lords, does that mean that the light has the Light Lords? A source behind the source. The possibilities of building up stories, it's nearly endless. What is kinda cool about the whole light storyline is that they've been adding more personality to the light. Good or evil is very much a perspective, a moral judgment that we apply to the actions taken. Light in the hands of a Scarlet Crusader, that might be seen as evil, whereas a Shadow Priest using the void to protect their allies, that might be seen as good. Demons are often found on the more evil scale, while warlocks using their powers to fight for good, they can be seen as comrades. Druids are often considered peaceful and lovers of nature, but their skills in the wrong hands, it can quickly be turned into growing corrupted world trees. Point being is that good or evil, it does not depend on where the powers came from, rather how they're wielded. That's not to say that when having to make a choice, I personally still ally myself with the light over the Void Lords that want to consume the universe. But the light, it has shown more teeth lately. There was the Prime Naru Zera trying to enforce a destiny upon Illidan. On alternate Draenor, Yrl was apparently motivated by the light to go on a holy crusade against the orcs. I wonder if they too were motivated by a Naru, or if they're going to take this opportunity and dive deeper into the source behind them. Another storyline that they can further expand upon. If that gateway to alternate Draenor ever opens up again, we might learn more about their motivations, see alternate Lightbound Garrosh, find out whatever happened to Gromash, explore further into what the Light Lords could be. Moving on to order and disorder, these forces govern the cosmic systems of the physical universe. Order is most commonly perceived in reality as arcane magic. This type of energy is innately volatile, and wielding it requires intense precision and concentration. Conversely, disorder is manifested as highly destructive fel magic. This brutal and extremely addictive energy is fueled by drawing life from living beings. These two areas are pretty deeply explored, yet at the same time there's always room to add more. The Titans had their mission of finding and waking up more of their kind, bringing order to the world in the process. Sargeras, he was their greatest champion, eventually tasked with fighting against the demons. Yet, when he found out about the old gods and their intent of corrupting a slumbering Titan spirit, he decided to form his Burning Legion, and by opening up the prison that he had made for the demons, he became infused with fel. This in turn gave him the upper hand when the Titans confronted and tried to stop him. That just goes to show that even though our chart it places them on opposite sides, that doesn't mean that they can't overlap or even swap over. There are many examples of beings categorized in one area, while dabbling or full-on embracing powers of the others. Now the Pantheon's defeat, it meant torment at the hands of their fallen brother and his forces, trying to convert them into a dark Pantheon. We have prevented it, we've liberated them, and the rift to Azeroth has been closed. All that's left now is a red star in the sky to remind us of those events. When they want to, the Pantheon is waiting to return. Inside of Azeroth, there still rests a now cleansed, slumbering spirit with quite a bit of an injury. The Sword of Sargeras is still stuck inside the planet. That is what we know so far, but they have made mention of a Titan home world.
We've seen Titans that represent order, but we've mostly seen them through their Azeroth expressions of that. We went to the world that Aenar was on and things like that, but we haven't gone to a proper Titan homeworld, for example. We've seen more how the Titans interact with other things.
A source behind a source. Imagine what the world of the creators would look like. Could they even add more Titans besides those known as the Pantheon? Their return, it could mean the awakening of Azeroth, grabbing hold of the blade and stand with them against that ultimate threat of the Void Lords. Explore the great dark beyond, visiting planets and other cultures that they've encountered and helped before, or even visit entirely new planets, eventually pushing forward and taking the battle to the domain of the Void Lords. While cruising across space, we might also see what happened to the demons of the Burning Legion. While their unified threats, it might be gone, that doesn't mean that they suddenly stopped being their demonic selves. With Sargeras out of the picture, they're free to once more do what they do best. Infiltrating and corrupting civilizations, destruction and mayhem. There might be worlds out there that would find Azeroth's experience dealing with the Legion, that experience to be quite handy. We could discover more about the intricacies of the Twisting Nether, new races amongst the demons, and perhaps even convince them to stand with us against a future threat, one that would concern both sides. Just imagine Shivara or Pit Lords as an allied race. One can definitely dream.
Yes, I'm on your side. It's complicated, for reasons.
Finally, there will be the two sides that are going to play a big part in the Shadowlands. That is life and death. The forces of life and death, they hold sway over every living thing in the physical universe. The energies of life, commonly known as nature magic, promote growth and renewal in all things. Death, in the form of necromantic magic, acts as a counterbalance to life. It is an unavoidable force that breeds despair in mortal hearts and pushes everything towards a state of entropic decay and eventual oblivion. Life and death, a balance that must be preserved, while some are actively working towards tipping those scales.
Ah, don't grieve. You'll soon join your loved ones.
I grieve for you. You've made life your enemy.
And that is a war you'll never win.
On the nature side, we can see the wild gods as primal manifestations of life and nature. They are creatures of two realms. As they inhabit the physical world of Azeroth, their spirits are bound to the ethereal Emerald Dream. This is the reason why certain slain wild gods later made a return to Azeroth. Cenarius is a prime example. He was slain during Warcraft 3, then returned to the Emerald Dream, but not directly. With Shadowlands, we learn that there's another step, another example of opposing yet linked domains. You see, within the Shadowlands, there's an area called Ardenwald, described as the autumn and winter to the Emerald Dream's more spring and summer nature. Their rebirth begins here, until they're ready to return to the dream, and eventually, perhaps Azeroth itself. But the Shadowlands, it houses more than just Ardenwald. It has many different destinations for spirit to end up in. Mortal spirits fallen to the inevitable powers of death. Not just Azeroth spirits, as they clearly ask what domain you hail from. Yet this is for mortal beings. Blizzard has decided to make a distinction between mortal and magical creatures. Demons, for example, they return to the Twisting Nether. Old gods, they go off to a different domain, potentially where they came from. Naru and Titans, and insert something that you would define as magical here. They got their own little realms to go to, but not mortals. They have the Shadowlands to look forward to. We can also see that necromantic magic is mentioned. Some souls are not destined to remain in the Shadowlands forever, while full-blown resurrecting, as you might see your healer do during raid time. Bringing someone just back from the dead, that is extremely rare in the lore. Necromancy, not so much. There are different generations of Death Knights. Lich Kings and the Scourge, Sylvanas and the Forsaken. Even back during the War of the Ancients, we read about Dreadlords experimenting with the powers of necromancy. I don't want to go into too many spoilers for the Shadowlands, as we do know a couple of things about how the expansion begins. Yet, as with the other cosmic forces, you do have to wonder how far they want to take the story and what characters might play a part. There is a balance to all of this, as mentioned by Bolvar during Legion. And some are working towards upsetting that balance. Who might show up as the force behind the force on the death side? And if this expansion truly revolves around both life and death, then what will we see on the life and nature side? There's potential for diving deeper into what Elune might be. Potential for diving deeper into the origins of the Lich King and necromancy as a whole. Potential for exploring the cycle of life and death and what it means for the greater cosmic scale. I think that's a rather good place to end it. And of course, when talking about future storylines that they could dive into, future expansions that they could make, I always say that it's a fantasy story and they can keep it going for as long as they want. They don't have to stick to these massive forces on the cosmology charts. We've also talked about exploring the Great Dark Beyond, but they could also easily dive back into alternate realities with Nosdormu the Bronze and the Infinite Dragonflight. Now I know, Warlords, it left quite a bad taste when it comes to that subject, but it's not to say that alternate scenarios, that they can't be done right. The what if videos about Warcraft lore are pretty popular on YouTube. Imagine exploring a reality where Arthas never picked up Frostmourne, or one where the Titans never even found Azeroth to begin with. A reality in which the Dark Portal never opened up, or any kind of what-if scenario that you can think of, they could explore in such an expansion. It's just one idea. There are more, of course. By all means, let me know in the comments down below what you would like to see in a future expansion. And if you're curious for more details on all the things that we talked about today, then check out the related WoWhead article in the description down below. You could also subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, see ya!